Welcome back, YouTube. I am Turnkey, your host. In this video, I will cover the lore for the Middle East and Persian front from the Konflikt 47 rulebook and its supplement Resurgence, and in the following video, I will cover the Far East and Asia. Please like and subscribe for more Konflikt 47 lore. In early 1944, the British Commonwealth forces lead the Allies in a series of successes in Southeast Asia. U.S. military forces continue its island-hopping campaign, seizing the Marshall Islands and capturing key cities in New Guinea. Japan begins to engage Allied airfields in China in an effort to stop raids on shipping and the home islands. Japanese scientists, aided by rift tech shared by the Germans, unleash a new class of submarine, the Sentoku. 3 such submarines participate in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, but fail to lead to a decisive victory. Instead, both sides suffer greatly. U.S. Marines capture Guam and Tinian, and finish the capture of the Mariana Islands, leaving them in a position to attack the Japanese mainland. Meanwhile, Japan enjoys greater success on the ground in China due to Allied forces focusing on Burma and Southeast Asia. In October, the U.S. military launches an invasion of the Philippines. The invasion is immediately dogged by submarine activity, and the subsequent landing is botched. Japanese resistance is fierce and force a heavy toll on the poorly organized invasion force. Meanwhile, the operations in New Guinea meet with fresh resistance. Japanese forces at sea are reinforced by the world's largest and most advanced class of submarine, matched with smaller escort crafts similarly upgraded with rift tech. The invasion of Manila Bay is cancelled in the face of overwhelming losses. During these troubling times, the Allied influence over the Chinese forces declines in favor of Soviet. Chinese army forces take a defensive posture, unwilling to engage Chinese communists or Japanese forces. By March 1946, U.S. air bases and activities in China cease largely due to a lack of support from local Chinese forces. Soviet influence continues to grow in the region, and by February 1947, the Soviets have declared backing for the Chinese Communist Party over the ruling GMD, Chinese National Party government. Battle-weary Australian forces in New Guinea established an airfield in Maprik, bringing in reinforcements and supplies while fighting horrifying reanimated corpse soldiers. To add to the strain on Australian forces, an effective naval submarine counterattack saw the destruction of the Australian light cruiser HMAS Hobart. The effort is not enough to save the Japanese position on New Guinea, however, and Japanese forces on the island settle for a defensive action with little hope of resupply. Allied forces on the island struggle to eradicate Japanese holdouts and suffer greatly with the eradication of reanimated soldiers, often of fallen comrades. Even after conventional hostilities end, Japanese soldiers fight a guerrilla terror campaign using reanimated corpses against locals, necessitating Commonwealth forces to remain on the island for an extended period. The Americans are met with more success in the second effort to take Manila Bay, in part thanks to Filipino guerrillas. Attacks on the capital are led by new armored infantry, and by June 1945, the last Japanese forces in Burma are defeated. Japanese naval forces managed to force the American Navy away from the Philippines and land new rift tech units. The advantage given to the Japanese by the new rift tech units quickly turned the tide as Japanese forces retake lost ground. In October, U.S. defenders in Manila surrender. The situation is dire as Japanese submarines effectively restrict resupply to the island. Requests are made for rift tech to stop the Japanese offensive. In April of 1946, U.S. Marines begin the invasion of Iwo Jima. Logistics are frequently disrupted by roving hunter packs of advanced Japanese submarines. Despite the numerical advantage and the use of coyote and grizzly walkers, Japanese heavy infantry cause heavy losses to U.S. troops. Meanwhile, the naval losses to submarines are deemed too great and a withdrawal order is given to the forces on Iwo Jima. Timelines for the invasion of Japan have to be scrapped, and public support for the war wanes in the face of a year of non-stop losses. After 5 months of licking its wounds, the U.S. forces launch a second invasion of Iwo Jima in order to win back public support for the war. This time the island was bombed heavily, and naval bombardments accompanied offensives by Marines. After 3 weeks of heavy fighting, the U.S. Marines established a presence on the island. Fighting continues, with Jacko walkers being used effectively against tunnels, but counterattacks by heavy infantry make offensives perilous. Fighting continues through March 1947. The Second Battle of Iwo Jima rages. U.S. Marines are determined to avenge their prior defeat. Naval logistics are in a better position for this fight, better able to manage the submarine threat, better able to provide air cover, and better able to supply the Marines fighting on the island. By May, the Japanese forces on Iwo Jima are defeated. Submarine wolf packs continue to plague the U.S. Navy, and Japanese launch a series of effective raids against the island and naval targets. New P-80 Shooting Star jet fighters are rushed to the airfields of Iwo Jima with hopes that the Riftek will make itself felt on the front lines. As Soviet leadership declares support for the Chinese Communist Party, they establish training bases in the north of China. The U.S.-backed Chinese government panics and demands greater U.S. support and involvement, but there's little will to meet these demands as resources are being siphoned towards the Middle East front over China. The situation is ignited when the CCP attempts to assassinate the leader of the Chinese government. The attempt is unsuccessful, but 2 U.S. officers are killed in the attempt. Chinese government army prioritizes attacking CCP targets, leaving Japanese-occupied territory alone. U.S. intelligence indicates Soviet involvement in the assassination attempt. Fears of a civil war instigated by foreigners plays into the Japanese hands. Local militias are formed in occupied territories. These units are fed stories of government and CCP atrocities, painting each as foreign occupying forces. With the fall of Iwo Jima, a debate rages among the Allies. Common interests are pushed as there is far too much vulnerable territory to secure, and assets in the Pacific are spread thin. Commonwealth forces in Burma continue to struggle to muster the necessary supply for offensive actions. The Japanese forces in Burma are strengthened by local Thai militia, but are unwilling to re-engage in Burma. Actions against Malaya and Singapore lack the heavy infantry necessary to punch through Japanese defenses. The fighting continues in New Guinea, with some progress against the use of terror troops as special forces report destroying a critical factory used in the creation of the undead infantry on the island. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time as I cover Finland and the Northern Flank from the Resurgence Supplement and the Forces of Italy from the Defiance Supplement. Please comment below with suggestions for future videos.